things that that we have to understand is that when we're talking about grappling, particularly grappling with a weapon of any kind, the priorities don't actually change. It's just that the priorities aren't really there. They're not really a problem when we're doing sport grappling. So when we're dealing with, you know, BJJ in a competitive environment, we say position is over submission. Okay? Our working fight priority means that we start at position. We want to establish position, which basically another way of saying that is that we establish control first, and then we start working for submission. You guys who have grappled before, you've probably been in situations where you went for something before you really had a good control position, and then as you drop back for an armbar, as you went for a choke and stuff, the guy escapes and ends up on top of you and stuff, and now you're losing. All right? You didn't establish position first. You didn't establish control first. So this is why we say you want to establish that position before submission. When we start getting into MMA, we have striking to deal with. We still have position before submission, but we also have to keep in mind that striking plays in there also. So my personal philosophy is that it's still position, but striking, whether it be defense from striking or whether it be utilizing striking, it has to share with submissions. And the reason for that is because striking in a fight can end a fight just like an armbar can. I can knock a guy unconscious. If I can lock him up and not let him move, and I can start raining elbows and knees, and you guys have seen this in UFC where they get a guy pinned up against a cage and he's firing knees into the guy. Well, he established a good position first. He locked the guy down, the guy can't move, and then he started utilizing strikes until the guy was unconscious, or till the ref called it or whatever. So striking in essence is a form of submission in that MMA world. But when we're getting into weapons-based environment, we'll just call this weapons-based grappling, we start getting into that. We have position before submission, but the weapon is above everything. And the reason for this is because unlike BJJ, where I could, in BJJ, if you're in the mount on me, I'm not submitting you. Like, there's very little I can do. I know people will sit there and say, grab the testicles and do all this stuff and, you know, secret ninja pressure points and stuff. That's complete bullshit. It's not gonna work, whatever. The point being is that if I'm in a dominant position, the chance of you being able to do anything to me offensively is greatly diminished. But that's not true in a weapons-based environment. I could absolutely have mount on you, and you could still shoot me. In fact, I've got working live video, force on force, of a mid-level blue belt getting shot in the dick by a new white, not even a white belt. The guy didn't even train. He had only had 3 days of grappling or whatever, but he got mounted immediately. The guy ignored the blue belt, ignored the gun, and the one white belt managed to pull the gun out and shoot, took his gun away and managed to shoot him in the dick with it. So the fight can end anywhere, which means that the weapon has to be the greatest priority. Because regardless of, like in the BJJ world, we're sitting there competing, I score 50 points on you in a tournament, but you catch me in an armbar, I still lose. Okay, it doesn't matter how good of control you had if you couldn't finish that control through to the end. By the same token, when we're talking about a weapons-based environment, I don't care how good you are. Someone pulls a knife and you ignore it and you don't prioritize it, it will end the fight right away, regardless of whether or not you're in a bad position or a good position or whatever. So what we have to do, and this is kind of like where we take on a different philosophy in our BJJ environment. A lot of you guys, you know, you train the BJJ here and stuff like that, and you know that the thing that I am big on is I'm big on pressure and I'm big on control. And the reason for that is because when we get into a weapons-based environment, that will help you. More mobile, explosive, kind of flippy, acrobatic type of sport grappling is going to get you stabbed. It's going to get you shot, or it's going to put you at such a deficit for space that when those weapons come in, you're not going to be able to respond to it. So our priorities need to be, just like we did when we were doing the wall work, my priority needs to be to, if the weapon is out, I deal with the weapon. That's the first thing. If the weapon is not out, I go to control the area where weapons can come from. And that gets into where we start talking about, basically, my guy is here, arms and legs, this space right here, that space between here and here is where weapons are typically going to come from. They're going to come from basically the bottom of the pockets up to about the chest level if we're talking about chest rigs, or the bottom of the pockets to the waistline if we're talking about concealed type stuff. Very few people are going to have stuff kind of up a sleeve or down a shirt or something like that. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but the most high percentage areas where people are going to have things are right in here where they're easily accessible and stuff. So that means that when we're trying to establish control, if the weapon is not out, we need to prioritize that, which is why when we start talking about guard passes or escaping mount or defending my guard and stuff like that, I am always in the BJJ class telling you guys to prioritize that space in there. Do not let him around your waistline, okay? And by the same token, if you're attacking him, you want to separate that space because I want that space to be able to control him. So